This is the famous Nithi Bridge that has led many to their untimely deaths while on safari to and from the mountainside. Located at the heart of Tharaka Nithi County of Kenya, the bridge, having been constructed in the late 1970s, is believed to have had various atrocities that have led to the name the Killer Bridge. Aboard, we'll delve deeper into understanding what are the causes of these accidents and who is really responsible.
Hiyo mbeta kwa sirivyo ya moroni Denisi alede wa rokwene ama tunda twendageria wandi muretunie rutopu na wakatukulomba tongoria batwesiririe ona tutumbe kuona twikari wega tantu bara bangi.
I'm Kelvin from Meru naendeshanga pikipiki hapa Meru kushuka njia ya Maua. Huyu principal wa Kanimba alikuwa customer wetu, tulikuwa tunambemba sana, alikuwa anatulipa vizuri. So after hiyo accident iliyokaa tukiwa hapa stage, tulishuka Nithi kuona nini imetendeka. Unfortunately wakati tulifika hapo tulimpata amekufia kwa hiyo accident. Biacho na huzuni sana juu ni kama tulilost customer, alikuwa atutumia vitu za shule. By the way, kama mimi nikiwa Gitonto High School, Karimba High School ilikuwa wanaiba school, alikuwa anatutembelea. Sasa nilikuwa namjua. So it's like si tulifeel vibaya juu ni customer, bado ni mwalimu wangu na alikuwa msee mzuri sana na alikuwa atulipa kwa na shinda mingi. Yeah.
Alikuwa anakuja anachukua mtu alafu ananunua gazeti.
Alafu ndiye alikuwa anatutumia gazeti hapa tu stage yetu. Anatutumia tunampelekea shule. Ama sometimes anakuja anapaka gari hapa anatusalimia, ananunua gazeti zake anaenda shule. Tukiwanga Sunday tu hapa stage yetu. Na msee mmoja wa hii stage yetu alikuja akiwa ametoka Malima, akatuambia kuna accident imeokaa Nithi. Sasa sisi wote watu wa bonda tukashuka kuona ni nini imehappen ndo help wenye walikuwa included kwa accident. Sasa venye tulishuka huko, mtu wa kwanza kuona alikuwa mzungu na mwanamke mwingine hapo alikuwa amekatwa mguu. Sisi kwa uwezo wetu tuliweza kuwasaidia wenye hawakuwa wamekufa, kuwapeleka huko juu kwa rami before polisi wakuje. Sasa hapo bando kwa kichaka tukiwa tunasaidia wenye bando hawajakufa, ndipo tulipata huyo principal ndiye tukambemba, lakini alikuwa amekufia hapo. So mimi kama venye naweza sema hawa polisi wako hapa Meru wanaendelea kuchukua ngo bandala wa flow instructions venye gari hazitawahi anguka hapo tena. So serikali inapaswa iangalie kitu juu polisi kama wanachukua ongo, lazima gari hizo zitaendelea kukosa accident na bando familia mingi zitaumia.
Kevin, a bodaboda rider, is troubled by this menace going on in his locality. He is perturbed by the fact that policemen that are supposed to guard our roads and ensure that our vehicles are roadworthy, they are really just slacking on their jobs and taking bribes and turning a blind eye to this atrocity that lies ahead. With the fast-paced growth of economy in neighboring rural centers, it is crucial looking into the bridge that connects the major trade hubs. Meet our second interviewee of the day, who is a regular road user as well as a resident of Midero area, the immediate trade center after the bridge.
Wageni ndio sana zaidi ndio wanafanya accident hapo, kwa sababu hawajafahamu hiyo njia vizuri. Unakuta kuna wengine walikuwa wanaenda kwa matanga, jamii moja walikufa wote, matatu yao ilianguka pale, wakafa wote waliokuwa kwenye hiyo matatu. Jambo lingine ningetaka kusema juu ya hiyo ni kwamba yule alichora mchoro wa hiyo njia, sijui alichoraje. Mimi kama dereva, mimi najua ukiteremka kwa mteremko sana, kama unakanyaga breki, kabla ufike pale chini kabisa, zile breki zinashika moto na kufail ni haraka sana. Kwa hivyo magari mengi yanakosa breki, si ati ni kupenda kwa dereva. Wengine wanaanguka kwa sababu magari yao imefail breki. Unakuta gari limebingilika hapo kama jiwe limetupwa. Kwa hivyo maoni yangu ni kwamba kama serikali inaweza fikiria warekebishe hiyo njia. Unajua iko na kona. Sasa gari ikifail breki haiwezi kurenga kona moja, ya pili, ya tatu. Lakini kama hiyo njia ingekuwa straight, imenyoroka kidogo, hata gari likifail breki silitaenda na livuke na liende kusimama kule juu. Kwa hivyo magari kweli yameanguka mengi hapa katika kijiji ambacho kinapakana na huo mto. Kuna watu wengi sana ambayo wamekuwa walemavu. Kuna rafiki yangu alianguka miaka mingi iliyopita na gari iliyoitwa Nithi Bridge. Hata waleo agari na chuma kwa mguu. Wengi sana wamebaki mayatima. Kwa hivyo ningesihi serikali, ikiwezekana tafadhali hiyo njia irekebishwe. Ni afadhali iwe refu, kwa sababu kwa maoni yangu vile mimi naona ni kama serikali walitaka kukata sehemu ili wapitishe barabara, lakini kupitisha barabara na barabara ikiwa ndefu lakini watu wasife, na ikiwa fupi lakini watu wafe, what have you saved? Umeokoa nini hapo? Nikusema umechangia ajali, haujarekebisha lolote. Kwa hivyo tumeachwa na watoto mayatima wengi hapa kijijini na kote. Kama hivi karibuni hata watu wakubwa katika hii serikali pia hapo. Kuna mwingine alikuwa ameajiriwa daktari, alikuwa anaenda coast kwa kazi, akafa hapo tu, a very young lady doctor. Kwa hivyo tumepoteza rasilimali zetu kwa njia ambazo ni za ukatili, pengine ukatili wa madereva ama ukatili wa wale walijenga ama ukatili wa serikali. I'm sorry to say so, sababu how can you wait people to shorten a road ile ambayo itaua watu kama ni serikali? We have government actors, yes, na CS wa serikali ambao wanaweza kusema hii njia hiyo hatutaenda hiyo njia, afadhali igharimu pesa nyingi badala ya kisha we save money lakini mioyo ipotee. Hayo tu ndio nilikuwa nayo.
Na kuna wewe ukiendesha siku moja, labda kuna siku karibu upate accident?
Siku moja nilikuwa bahati yangu, nilikuwa mimi huwa na road, lakini siku hiyo nikitapo nilikuwa na gari dogo. Bahati ni vile ilifeli breki ikiwa haijateremka, na nikaengage gia mzito, halafu nikateremka pole pole. Kama ningekuwa na high gear, haya mambo yangekuwa mengine.
The accident just happened and we got into the rescue whereby we would shift through. You find we used to leave the bodies aside and help those who are alive. up the incline, the steep incline, and into the waiting vehicles. Response was first from the ambulance and county fire services. And now what hit me is there was a child that was involved in the accident, and when we took him to hospital, it was pronounced dead on arrival. And bearing in mind that I also have young children, it was so traumatizing. Then later is when we got wind that even a friend of ours who used to teach here, who was coming from his home, because it was on a Sunday evening, and also passed on. So basically, from then on, during that first week, even when boarding a vehicle, it was a bit any bump or a sudden movement, I'd find myself getting frightened, because basically when you witness such, even when you're traveling, you are always hyper alert, because those images, they still like haunt you, and you're like, this can be averted. You start finding that I think human lives can be spared if you think that we're more careful on our roads. I think basically from what has come to light is that when this road was being built, it's when it was being funded by the British government, and that is when the government went to war with Argentina, their Falklands War. So they had to pull resources from some of their overseas ventures, and that is why shortcuts were made, like in the building of this road, and that is why we've been experiencing so many accidents. There have been political promises that it will be redesigned, but so far we've not seen any concerted efforts by the national government and other stakeholders on the same. We believe that most accidents are caused by human error, and if we are more careful on our roads and we should be driving vehicles that are roadworthy, because as you saw after the accident, that bus had been involved in a lot of issues, so it was also unroadworthy, which we can attribute to human error. I think going forward there should be more strict measures on what vehicles access our roads, and also on the kind of personnel that are
my name is Kenneth Marango, a resident of Maua in Tharaka Nithi County. Basically, I'm a journalist by training, having trained at the Kenya Institute of Mass Communication in the late 70s, and after that worked for the Department of Information, well, for a total of 42 years, and went on retirement 2 years ago while being the County Information Officer for Tharaka Nithi. Now, during the course of my work, sometimes in 1998, January, I happened to be traveling from Meru town, which was my workstation then, heading towards my home at Mombasa in Tharaka Nithi, and we used a bus. It was a stagecoach bus, which was traveling from Maua towards Nairobi. So at about 5 in the evening, I boarded the vehicle in Meru town. But it was, as I got in, it was already full to capacity, but still, since there was the possibility of standing up passengers, I continued. So tukaingia kwa gari, we were so many. that time it was at the height of the El Nino rains, so it was raining very hard.
Yeah.
Like I said, it was January 1988, 7th, I think, I recall. And then the accident happened at about 6:30 in the evening, because according to what I had, I came to realize later on is that the vehicle lost control as it was descending the Nithi hill towards the Nithi Bridge,
Yeah.
and then missed the bridge and plunged into the river, killing on the spot 58 people. Those are the ones who died on the spot, according to the story we read the following day.
How many people are on board?
As far as I'm concerned, that vehicle was those big things, and I believe it was carrying over 100 people. Yes. So immediately the accident happened, people kept rushing all over from me. Then other vehicles stopped. They helped ferry us from there. I broke both legs and both arms. We were taken to Chogoria Hospital,
Yes.
where then I was hospitalized for 4 months.
And now after that accident, how did your life change?
Well, after the accident,
Yeah.
I became disabled,
Yes.
since one of my legs became shorter by about 2 inches,
Yeah.
and I got a certificate of disability from the National Council for people living with disabilities. Life was not, it was not normal, because now I could not do most of the things I used to do much. Like I could not run a lot, since because of the shortness of one of the legs, I could easily fall down.
Yeah.
And then since my work also involved a lot of movements, that one now restricted. That one, the accidents actually turned me into a sort of now a sit down kind of fellow, an office journalist, you know. Yeah.
So you went back to work?
I went back to work.
Yeah.
Thank God, the National Hospital Insurance Fund and also my own personal insurance took care of the hospital bills at Chogoria Hospital.
Yeah.
I went back to work. The government also gave me a small amount of money. This the name they call it, ex gratia.
Yeah.
They give it to me to assist me in settling down probably after the accident.
Yeah.
But then life continued, and then since I was in charge of activities in a department.
Yes.
I was not doing so much, and then also my bosses understood my condition. So most of the times I started doing my work without a lot of movements, just staying mostly in the office.
So well, ilichukua kama how many months or years for you to get back?
To get back to normal too. In fact, after that I developed a phobia for vehicles and fast vehicles.
Yes.
I could not travel to Nairobi, from Meru-Nairobi for instance, on these Nissans, because I thought they were going so fast. I used to use this bus called the Ken Silver, which plies that route but at a snail's pace, you know. And that one took about, for me to overcome the fear completely and to those feelings to leave me, it took me about 5 years.
Yeah. And in that bus, kulikuwa na mtu maybe you knew and...
There were friends of mine in that bus.
Yes.
Because as when we got to Chogoria, among the people who boarded the vehicles, it was still full. Was one friend of mine who was working for a bank called Motembei, from my neighborhood here at a place called Kiamujombe. And another young man who was a colleague, but in the fisheries department at Chuka office, at Chuka, called, he had just left university. I'm sorry, I can't remember his name immediately, but he was from somewhere around Karia, in above Karia, those areas, Karia. He was called Njiro, and in fact, I was part of the people who were planning for his wedding, because he was a newly married young man. So they boarded at Chogoria, but unfortunately both of them died at the bridge. Yes.
And then unaweza kuwa unajua anything about their families, maybe how they...
Well, I don't know exactly what happened. I have never really visited their families. I really don't, but everybody was sad. It was a sad moment for the people who used to know them.
Yes.
But one day, Mutembei's daughter
Yeah.
wrote to me on social media,
Yes.
telling me how the death of her father,
Yeah.
since he was the only breadwinner, had affected her education. And but thank God she finished high school and she's now working and she's okay. But she says it was a very painful blow to her. She still misses her.
And then the other one worked at the fisheries.
Transport at the fisheries, I've not known much about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but of course, the children must have suffered seriously.
Yes.
Because there's nothing as bad as losing a young parent, a young father.
And well, what memories do you have of the accident when it happened? Like maybe, what would you say really happened?
Well, about that accident, I think that's why an accident is just got an accident. It's an accident.
Yes.
Anyway, when we got to where there used to be what used to be the then post office at Marima, just before you started the descent to Nithi, I heard a loud some bang, like the gear had knocked or something, you know, some banging noise, like the brakes, either the gear ikatoka ama breki zikawacha, because the vehicle developed a lot of speed as it was going down, and due to its velocity, you know, the carrying, it was going on the steepness, there's that sound which a vehicle makes. So everybody in the vehicle started standing up and making noise, some praying loudly, others, you know. So I was trying to shout to the nearest person, why don't you please shut up so that at least the driver can, you know, not lose control of the vehicle. And I was praying to God seriously, because I know that road, I've driven on it several times. I was just praying that we just at least cross the bridge. Maybe from the bridge now we can now come and crash backwards. It would have been a bit better. But unfortunately the worst happens. We hit the railing on the bridge just before the bridge. There's an embankment of stone which we hit, and the bus fell into the raging river, which was now full because of the continuing El Nino rains.
And then now maybe you were unconscious.
I lost consciousness for about 5 minutes. And then when I opened my eyes, I could just hear the roar of the water. The roar of the water, and then there was some eerie silence. Of course, the bus, there was no roof on the bus. I was on the floor. My legs were aching, and somebody was lying on my left hand. So it was really painful. That's the one which had broken. I had not realized that they had broken. So I pushed off this person, and then the person fell. I didn't know they were dead. You know, that kind of thing.
Now, how has your journey been after that accident, emotionally?
Well, emotionally, I just realized that life can be very, very short. In fact, it is after that I got saved. And I thank God for, because it was actually the Lord who made me. I can't say it is because of my own doing. The only thing I remember is when I realized that the worst was going to happen, I just said, please God.
Cut.
Ingine ilikuwa naitwa, I can't remember za Wakikuyu. So what used to happen, hiyo gari ikitoka ng'ambo ile, ikifika hapa sana nimekwambia pale post office. Ara West Greenview. Unasikia driver, Kimani, toka. Kimani anakuja, anajua vile anaambiwa ashikilie gear number 1 kwa sababu imewekwa ili zing'oke. Unasikia? Akae pale hivi sasa aishikilie namna hiyo. Ile driver naye akishika steering, anakanyaga brake na ile nyingine inaitwa freno. Namna hiyo. So that this one does not come out. You can come out. Ikiwekwa gear inaweza kutoka. That's the way they used to do it. And they never got an accident.
So now on camera, now what would you say is the causes the accident?
Now these things, I'm not a professional.
Okay, now as a person,
as a layman.
As a layman.
No, I think the road should just be re-engineered. Yes. The road should be engineered. Can I repeat now the story of the...
That's what I wanted.
I think it should be engineered because according to the reports we had was that since this road was constructed by the British government, and at about that time, the British government got involved in the Falklands War with Argentina. There are reports that one of the engineers who did this road and decided to resettle this area permanently, a fellow called Toil of Briton Cordno, who later died here in Dagani, told us that as a result of they had to re-engineer the road to remove some money because that money was needed for the war effort in Britain. And that is why we are told that even very many markets were bypassed the road, completing throwing the entire economy of the whole place into disarray. Markets like all the way from Movu, markets which used to be Medero Market, Marima Market, Kara, Kabeshe, all those markets were basically left to be ghosty towns because of the passage of the road. So according to me, the road, I'm not a professional, but the road should be re-engineered. Very many people have promised to re-engineer it. In fact, our now president, Mr. Ruto, promised during his political tours here in Meru, during the campaigns, that one of the first things he would consider when he gets into office was to re-engineer the road. So maybe it will be done.
And
you want to edit copy, eh?
Yeah, we are going to edit. Okay. And sasa ukiangalia accident zenye zilikonga kitambo kama hiyo yenu and then na zenye zinatokea saa hii, is there anything different or it's just the same?
It's just the same. According to me, it's just the same. Because what happens is that apart from drivers not knowing the road and the road needs teaching engineering, also public service vehicles, which also have suffered a lot of accidents there, also need to be treated with a lot of caution. Yes. And the policemen on both sides of the road who are always there getting bribes from innocent bystanders and without even checking what they are carrying or whether the vehicles are roadworthy or if they are overloaded or not. Something should be done about it. Pale hakutaki polisi wa kuangalia, if they are not doing anything, they are not helping anything. In fact, it's even a joke that they are only 100 kilometers from the bridge and the only thing they do is just getting money from overloaded and overspeeding matatus.
Having heard from a Boda Boda rider, a resident, a journalist, and an accident victim, a lot seems to have been shed into light. In some way, the engineering of the road, the negligence of the government, and driver carelessness seem to be viable causes of various calamities over the years.
And then we understand that there were some other roads around the road mountains. What's your take on those sections?
Actually, the old road, that one for the old Marima, the slope along that road, actually, if you look at the new road right now, it is designed in such a way that to avoid a steeper slope than the one that was there in the old Marima road. So I think the engineers who designed it the way it is right now, they were trying to avoid those steep slopes.
So what now do you say causes these accidents actually?
The accidents most of the times, let us say, first of all, they are caused by the careless driving, because most of the drivers you see were coming from Meru, even to quote but a few the Mirab drivers, they drive at a very high speed. They don't care if other people are using the road or not. So I think I would say careless driving. Sometimes the people who are driving those vehicles are fatigued, so they even can't see the road markings well. Then when you get to the bridge, just before you get to the bridge, the meanders are, there is a sharp corner just before you cross the bridge to go and take the other meanders so that you can take the rain. So I think if you reduce even that sharp corner at the bridge, it will also reduce the number of accidents.
My name is Faris Mangi. I come from Meru ward, which is in Mara sub-county. Mara sub-county is in Tharaka Nithi County. where you get the famous Nithi Bridge. And that's where we are.
In your case, when and where were you headed when you saw the accident?
I usually cross the bridge regularly because I work in Chogoria, which is across the bridge from Meru towards Marima. So this day I was coming from work from Chogoria, coming back home, which is in Meru. And we were going down the slope, nearing the bridge. At the last corner, a lorry overtook us, and it was literally flying. And because it could have hit us, and it maybe carried us along, because of the speed it was moving, and the load it was carrying cement bags. It swerved and went across to the other lane, to the lane of the oncoming vehicles, the climbing lane, and it passed us. And just as we were making the corner, we saw it roll at the bridge, at the beginning of the bridge. It rolled, it hit the rock encampment, rolled, spun in the air, bugs flying all over. We saw a large cloud of, the cement flew all over, and so there was a lot of, dust. And the lorry massively, instead of going over the wall, fell back onto the road. And from there, we were just about, I think we were about 50 meters out, just about 50 meters out.
So vividly, what can you actually say exactly happened causing the lorry carrying the bags of cement go off-road and actually roll over? What would you say caused it?
One, the incline from the slope from Marima to the bridge is not only steep, but long, quite long, maybe about 600 meters or so. As you go down, especially a lorry carrying a load, a heavy load, you have to really control the lorry. So I think the driver either was moving too fast, such that by the time we realized that the speed was too high, and he tried to control the vehicle, maybe the brakes also gave way. That's what I think. And once that happened, you can't control the vehicle, especially if it is carrying. So the load first of all, give it momentum, and then possibly it gathered speed and the brakes could not hold. So that combination of factors made it, very hard to control when it reached the bridge, which actually happens to be at almost a sharp bend for the vehicles going down the slope.
What really crosses your mind every single day you are crossing that bridge, relating it to the fact that it's a danger spot and you have to go through there to assess your point of work?
It is like the story of across the bridge, because what you want is across there. I work at Chogoria, so every single day I got to cross that bridge. And as I cross the bridge, of course, I always meet accident happening there. I see gory sights, very scary sights. At one point, I found the sandbag having rodents, bodies strewn all over. So I got these images in my mind, even as I cross and even as I come back. I know I have to cross the bridge, and I have to go down that long slope, and I got to use public means, sometimes private, but mostly public.
So it's more of those things that you have to inevitably do. An example of you have to really use this road to actually access Chogoria from where you come from.
Yes, it is necessary. It is necessary for many people. For people who have to go and find their daily bread across the bridge. For people who have to travel to Meru. Meru is across the bridge from Midero. And in Meru, of course, it's a big town, and so a lot of stuff can be got there. There are those ones who do cultivation, tea.
Yeah. It
has to cross the bridge to reach the factory. So it is a necessary crossing.
So are there not other routes, alternative routes that are actually safer and not endangering to the pedestrians and drivers?
They are there, but they are far. They are far. For instance, now, there is a route that goes, if you are to come from Midero to Chuka and go to Embu and then Karatina and Nyeri and Nanyuke and Meru, so that you come across, so that you avoid the bridge. You see, it's almost impossible. It's nonsensical. It's too far. It's kilometers and kilometers, actually hundreds of kilometers away. If you are to go down towards Kadwana, where the other road is, it will still be a long way before you come back here. So the only other alternative routes are by foot. By vehicle, we don't have.
So in your opinion, what do you think is the main contributing factor to accidents? Is it the geological feature of the road, or is it a factor that is contributed by roadworthiness of the cars and the vehicles that are driving on that road?
I think it is a combination of all of them. One, there is structural aspects of the road. The road, you can see the bends. You can see the sharp, the sharpness of those bends. You can see the steepness, yeah? You can see the length. It's quite a long way coming down that slope. Even coming from the Midero one is still quite some distance before you reach the bridge. Two, the fact that vehicles have to move down such a long slope can contribute, mechanical, brakes failing because of the load. Maybe number three, you can also put in the human error, because a driver may think that he is in control, but because of the nature of that road, the length and the steepness and then the sharp bends, he miscalculates. So it's a combination, and then throw into that possibly that vehicles are not well maintained, brakes. Like that accident that I witnessed, there was talk of the brakes having failed. So it's a combination of quite a number of them.
Who do you think, in between the drivers and the government, who do you think is fairly responsible in rectifying this whole situation, given a number of buses have actually fallen over here, personal vehicles too, and the Delta number is actually over 150 people who have actually lost their lives over here. What do you think can be done by the government, given it's the key provider of roads, and it is responsible for maintaining and actually rectifying issues that are actually concerned with the road?
It is true that so many lives have been lost here. Actually, every time I cross over, I imagine, very terrible things. And I think it is high time that the government took action. I would say it is the government that is responsible, because they are the ones who are responsible for maintaining, for building roads, for building bridges, for ensuring that those roads are safe, those bridges are safe. The Mwananchi pays taxes. It does not have the know-how, but they have their engineers. Those engineers need to advise the government accordingly, so that this menace is rectified. And it is possible to rectify it. There are ways. Even the terrain around can be scouted, and then the road is redirected. So I think the government should take action on this particular bridge, this section of the road. This is a very important road in the countryside that joins the Nairobi and Meru and even Isiolo. So it should be taken care of as quickly as possible, and I know it is possible. Politicians come and play politics. In 100 days I'll come and do it, this or that, but I think it should have been done last year.
So, for instance, there were talks, especially with the current governor of Tharaka Nithi. The same issue was raised with him, and I think it was explained that it will take money to actually purchase land, because to actually reroute the road will mean purchasing land and having to relocate people from their land. So do you think the government is actually capable of buying land from the farmers and relocating them for a much safer bridge?
Yes, it is possible. I mean, the government can achieve anything. I pay my taxes, right?
Yeah.
And I know that the government has what it takes. It has engineers. It can gather the money, collect the money, the revenue, and then reroute. I'm sure the people around, the residents, would want this bridge to be relocated, the menace to be removed. They would sell their land willingly. So I think the government is capable of doing it, but the willingness, I think, is what matters. Is it willing to do it? Does it see it as a problem? I think it is high time they took it as a very, very crucial activity, a very crucial development agenda for Tharaka Nithi County and for Kenya. For Kenya, because some lives that are lost are far and wide, from Nairobi, from Kiambu, from Isiolo, from Meru. It's not just the residents, but the residents actually face the brunt of this traumatic experience here, because they are the ones who come and see what happens and they rescue the people. So people suffer, people are suffering. There is need for the government to take this seriously.